We're going to be talking to a smaller company in a sector in a moment. The mobile operator Cell C is looking to restructure 77 million euros of senior debt. Chief Financial Officer Robert Pasley gives us a look into these financial plans. He's with us in studio. And Robert, I've got to ask you first off, myself, my family, my friends, we followed Alan, not Craig, to Cell C. I am bitterly disappointed. You guys seem to have major problems with your network. I can't get people to come through to me on my telephone. What is going on with you?
Alec, I'm obviously extremely sorry to hear that, because we've obviously made a huge effort to try and make inroads into the market, but it is it's a long road, and at the moment we are investing substantial amounts of money in improving our network, particularly in Gauteng. We are in the progress of swapping out one of our main suppliers, NSN, replacing them with Howie, and we are seeing substantial improvements in Pretoria, which is where we started the swap, but it's a long process and it will take a number of months before that swap is concluded.
So in the interim, should we all move back to MTN?
Not at all, but in the interim I hope that I mean, where there are specific issues they can often be addressed, but in principle we believe that our network quality, particularly as I say in Gauteng, is on the mend. It is improving, but it's not something that happens overnight. I mean, it's a significant amount of investment we're putting in at the moment, and this is one of the reasons why we are extending this bond. I should just put on the table that this is not a restructure, it's an extension of a bond
so
which we currently have in place.
It's a 77 million euro bond.
It's actually a 160 million euro
160.
bond, which is coming up for maturity in 2015, and we have solicited an extension with the bondholders on a consensual basis, and obviously for those who don't wish to extend, then there is a tender, so basically they can take their money if they wish, but in principle we believe we will get 100% response to extend the bond for a further 3 years. So basically it's being moved from 2015 out to 2018.
So you don't have to repay
all
of this money. And what incentive are you giving them to extend?
There is a small incentive. I mean, first of all, it's quite an attractive bond, but secondly, there is a solicitation fee which is being paid to assist in getting 100% consent.
What is that?
It's just a small percentage that is paid to the bondholders to encourage them to hold on to their paper.
Small?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. Robert, one of the issues there is if a bond's in euros and the rand is weak, it appears as though that 8.75, is that correct? The interest rate is a little bit misguided, because if you add the decline in the rand against the euro, then the real cost to you guys is much higher.
Alec, it is true that this is expensive paper for us, but having said that, it's an important part of our capital structure, and for us we actually see it as a positive that we have been able to achieve an extension of 3 years, because it allows us to focus on what is really important, which is putting capital into infrastructure, and that obviously means, I hope, improving the level of service which we're able to offer people like yourself.
And my family. And my friends.
Indeed.
What's happened to Alan? How's he doing?
I mean, as you're aware, he suffered a stroke in November, and it's a long road to recovery. He's looking well. He was actually in the office earlier this week, but I don't think he's going to be back in an executive role for a considerable period of time.
So he's on the mend. But as far as Cell C is concerned, he'll be maybe just whispering in your ears, but not driving.
He is on the board, and he's obviously, I mean, he's an iconic leader, and he is really the heart and soul of the company. But and I hope that he's back sooner than perhaps I imagine. But I think it is unlikely he'll be back in an executive role for the immediate future, at least.
The parent company is certainly always perceived as being a very wealthy, a very well-funded business. Has it committed more capital to what has been a very difficult road for Cell C?
Well, since Alan joined, in the first year that he joined, they invested a further $200 million into the business. Since last year, we really revisited our business plan. We put an entirely new model on the table, and our shareholders committed $450 million of further capital to the business. Now, $400 million of that has already flowed into the company. There's $50 million still to come. If more is required, I'm sure it will be put on the table, but clearly there is a point at which the investors say, well, you have to stand on your own 2 feet. And this is one of the reasons why we are looking at the balance sheet very closely and why we are extending this bond. But we are confident now that with this bond extension and also with other finance that we're raising at the moment, or have actually recently signed with ICBC, we have sufficient capital to take the fight to the opposition.
So Robert, what you're telling me is hang in there. Sometime my phone will begin ringing again, not with direct missed calls, and you're working on it, and you've been properly funded by the Saudis.
By the Chinese, by the Saudis, and obviously through this bond as well. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think that's I suppose enough to respond to all those people that are told to join me and follow Alan, not Craig, who was shaking up the South African industry, and certainly Cell C has been doing that. Pity about the Sharks, but anyway, there's always next year. That was Robert Pasley, the Chief Financial Officer of Cell C.